Good morning, world. We are just coming live because it is just about time 9 a.m. here in the Fox Valley area of Chicago. Just waiting for that number to click, and there we go. And then I got to listen to my voice so I know that you can hear me. So just hope you're having a great day. And here in the Fox Valley area, it's finally sunny and it's going to be warmer. So I'm so excited about that. In fact, I'm probably going to mow the lawn. But anyway, the store opener, the show opener. Hello, world. Yes, we do reach around the world. Over 90% of our listeners are here, right here in the United States of America. And I just want to say thank you for tuning in to me. And I'm kind of excited about today's show because I'm actually going to be doing something very different. And what's going to happen is, because of my wife's, not her recommendation, but just her lifestyle, I've decided to, instead of talking about the empowerment things on the second half, I'm going to talk about them on the first half. And then on the second half, I'll talk about my political talking points. And I'll tell you why I'm doing this. Obviously, I know my wife very well. You know, we've been together 10 years now, probably slightly more than that. And this is not something she said, hey, Bruce, why don't you try this? No, every time when she's listening to the radio, when a great song is on, she's totally in it and all that. But then if it goes to talking, she immediately changes the channel. So because of that, I'm like, I talk about such great empowering information that I'm afraid that a lot of my listeners are missing out. So that is going to be happening probably around 5 or 6 minutes after the hour. Just want to talk a little bit about a couple of things. I'm not going to mention names, but actually I've seen some famous people looking at my Facebook page. So I'm going to talk about that for a minute because I'm really excited about that and all the numbers. So in case you're not aware, I have two different pages, but I really don't post much on my Thirst for Joy fan page because it doesn't allow me all the options like my personal page. So I'm going to go ahead and spell my name again because it is a little bit of a tongue twister. My name is Bruce, Bruce. The last name is Bergbacher. And I'm going to go ahead and spell that. That's B as in boy, U-R-G, another B, A-C-H-E-R. One more time, Bruce Bergbacher. B as in boy, U-R-G, B-A-C-H-E-R. And in case you're not aware, that is a German last name. It actually refers to a moat on the edge of the Black Forest in Germany. Actually, years ago, how I found out is I used to have, many years ago when I would travel, I would look up my last name in phone books when we had phone books. And I would call these people because I realized, wow, if they got the name of Bergbacher, they're most likely somehow related. And actually, I was talking to this one gentleman. I'm trying to remember where I actually was. I want to say in Atlanta, but I'm not even totally certain of that. And he was telling me that he did a lot of research. He was very much into the lineage. And that's how I became aware that it referred to a moat on the edge of the Black Forest. But anyway, I don't know, most of you, well, probably a lot of people seem to do Facebook nowadays. In fact, I've only been doing it about a year. And actually, slightly less than a year. And actually, I've already received 200,000 likes. So there's a myriad of reasons for that. And I'm just so thankful that you would follow me on Facebook, that you would hopefully, in fact, I'm just going to throw a challenge out to you. If you like what you hear, and I'm not talking about my radio show, I'm really referring to my music because you may not like my political views, but I'm really hoping that you enjoy the music. It's something we really, really focus on. In fact, every week we update the music. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm just hoping that you share on Facebook this radio station because that's definitely going to help the numbers. And this is a numbers game. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the music. Now, when I say this, you might think, wow, he's getting all this music from a lot of other people. Well, it's a very small percentage, but there's several, well, not several, but there's definitely some people I reached out to. One is my sister, Sharon. She's suggested many great songs that I've played on the radio station. I have another friend, Dave, in Florida, who's actually threw out a good one that I would have never known existed. And then actually my neighbor across the street, and I'm not going to go into any details, but she actually she has suggested a couple of songs. Actually, she suggested 3, And I used two of the three, and the only reason why I really didn't use the third one, is because it's just a little bit too long for my personal taste. So that's why I didn't use that one. But I am so excited about going into the new format. And today we're going to be talking about what determines goodness in a person. These are all meant to empower your life. And it's kind of fascinating to me how we can think of ourselves as one way and the world views us completely different. So, I used to have this old joke, well, my own little joke about even Hitler was for better roads and better education. So, it's just interesting how the mind works, how we can actually be misled by many different things of seeing ourselves one way and we can actually be a very different person. So that is the reason why I've chose today's subject about talking about what determines goodness in a person. So we're going to go ahead and get into that. And this is the first article, How to Know If You Are a Good Person. And this is stuff I found on the internet. So if the verbiage seems a little odd, that probably explains it. So here we go. During my first trip to New Orleans, I've been there once, I visited Tarot, reading Name of Everly White. Well, I didn't even, well, I'm not going to get in that story, but anyway. I got my fancy cell phone on this thing, but I'd rather think I hold it. I think I'm going to be better. So anyway, here we go again. During my first trip to New Orleans, I visited a tarot card reader named Avery White. The other mystics looked and seemed more legit. And I'm just going to skip that paragraph because me as a Christian, I'm not really into the whole tarot card things. I had to be honest. I had an aunt back when I was a young child. That's long gone, passed on now. She used to be able to read cards, tarot cards, and with really accuracy. It's like crazy. She would say things that were totally true or came true. So anyway, and I'll just tell you the last little point. I was very young, like I said at the time, and I so wanted her to read my fortunes. Like, why not? This sounds fun. So she wouldn't do it because she said I was too young. But anyway, moving on. While shuffling a check of tarot cards, Avery asked me what I wanted to know about my life. Where I think I'm going to have to figure out how to make this print bigger because my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. Just saying. So if you wonder why I'm stumbling, it's because I'm having a little difficulty reading it. I wanted to ask, but what came out of my mouth surprised both of us. I am a good person, I uttered. She looked at me amused. That's not what people normally ask, he said. That's exactly why I had to ask it. It's interesting to me that he went to a fortune teller to see if he was a good person, but anyway. This is the type of question that I would classify as one of those things that you generally don't ever ask anyone close to you. Similar to am I lovable? Why do people hate me? Or am I annoying? At best, they are annoying attempts to finish or for complaints, and at worst, they are an open invitation to attack on fragile self-concept. And let me just tell you, I'm going to share that later today, I'm going to do some things I'm going to go to the AT&T store and see if I can't make this print bigger. And if it doesn't, I will get better reading glasses because sorry for all my little stumbling throughs, but it's really because it's hard to see this print on my new fancy phone. It's different though when you ask a complete stranger, particularly one who is intuitive. They don't have a shared history with you, so they have no reason to suck up or overly harsh your feelings. They won't lie because they don't care about you or your feelings, and the most part, we likely never see you again. And I do agree with some of that. I mean, there's this a thing to say about talking to somebody anonymously. In fact, several years ago, I had talked to somebody in an airport that I had such great conversation with, and I knew I'd never see again. And I think it really was because of the whole anonymous factor. You know, you could totally open up to this person. They don't know you. They'll probably never see you again in your life. So, anyway, I'm going back into this. Immediately, I thought of Freud, who about a century ago basically invented this sense of doubt. He theorized that humans are inherently selfish and focused primarily on their own individual survival. In fact, we behave badly because it's our nature. Interesting. And this is from Psychology Today. Psychological, or more strictly speaking, investigation shows that the deepest sense of human nature, which is similar in all men and which aims to at satisfaction of certain needs, self-preservation, aggression, need for love, and the impulse to attain pleasure and avoid pain. It's interesting because one of my favorite motivational speakers, Tony Robbins, says we are motivated by one of two things, either pain or pleasure. To Freud, our innate drive for self-preservation to deeply at odds with society's view that we should live in harmony or be good, he writes, the natural instinct of aggressiveness in man, hostility of each one against all, and me of all against one, supposes the program of civilization. Is Freud right? I am a bad person who is forced to conform to the ideas of being good, or was my New Orleans psychic correct all along? Let's look at the science, shall we? In one study, Yale University researchers used puppets to determine whether babies were inherently altruistic. In experiment, babies watched short play in which puppets were attempting to climb a hill. Then two others puppets would join in their help or hinder the puppet to task. Afterwards, when given the choices between the helper and the hinderer puppets, the babies were much more likely to choose the helper. Interesting. So it could be a learned behavior of goodness, is what this is telling me. Tom Stafford, who wrote the study for BBC, suggests that the behavior demonstrates that humans are wired to be good, at least in beginning of their lives, and hopefully you stayed that way. The way to make sense of this results is if infants with their pre-cultural brains had expectations about how people should act. Not only do they interpret the power of movement and shapes and resulting from motivations, but they prefer helping motivations over hindering ones. Dr. Bobby Wagner, a clinical psychologist and teaching fellow at Harvard University, agrees. She says they are no such things as bad babies. At our core, she argues, we have a true self that is kind, compassionate, caring, and curious. So it's interesting how she says that the bad in people is basically a learned behavior, is what she's really saying. So, continuing, it's the environment that always gets in the way of this true self, she says. For example, someone who was abused may develop a protective part of preemptively hurts others to protect itself. In her practice, she doesn't focus on terms like good or bad. Instead, shifting to focus on encourage the compassionate and curious self. to feel safe enough to come out. Interesting. In the video below, well, I'm just going to skip this because obviously you're not going to watch the video. Still acting good and being good are not one and the same, according to Beth Smirch, a North Carolina-based psychiatrist. She points to our social media-centered culture, which encourages us to act good in ways in order to receive positive reinforcement from others rather than acting altruistically for true intrinsic reward. And I'll say I know people who really do great attempts at trying to be a good person. That doesn't necessarily mean they are, but anyway, keep going. Which is why Somack said that only person who can decide whether you are a good person is yourself. And she's not the only one said that. I'm trying to think of that famous author, Christian author, that says, if you're not good by choice, you'll be negative by default. Or no, he said, if you're not positive by choice, you'll be negative by default. In fact, that's so powerful, I'm going to say it again because I'm hoping you get this. If you are not positive on purpose, you will be negative by default. And I'm sorry that I can't really think of that author's name now, but he's one of my favorites. He's a Christian author. So, moving on. A few questions to help decipher your individual honor code, according to Meredith Strauss, a New Jersey-based psychotherapist. Here are the following. Do I have compassion for others? In fact, that's one of the things that really kind of determines whether you're a narcissist, if you have compassion. How charitable am I? I like to think I am. And my wife would probably agree with that statement. But anyway, do I extend myself to loved ones in times of need and genuinely want to help? Or do I just do so to be politically correct? Next. What would my friends or my family say about me if they asked this question? Ooh, that's good. Next one. Do you put material possessions before people? Next one. What do you believe your contribution is to this world while you're here? Obviously, I believe it's this radio station. But moving on. But maybe the best way to look at our morality isn't labeling ourselves as good or bad, according to Dr. Paul DePompo, a Southern California-based psychologist and author. Thinking you are one or the other triggers problems when you eventually do a bad thing, which my phone just did that vibration thing, so it distracted me. Sorry. Which we are all capable of, and you may get inflated self-image when you are doing many good things. A better suggestion, he says, is to define what a good person in 3 to 5 words and rate yourself as in this continuum. If you see yourself at more than half, then you are relatively good yet imperfect person, which ultimately makes you human. What is your take? Are you a good person? And you know what? At risk of being brave, if I was you, I would consider asking family members, hey, do you consider me a good person? And honestly, I believe that family members will be very honest with you. So, and you got to ask it in a humble, very serious way. I mean, you know, if you're screaming at them, don't think that they're going to answer it truthfully. So, anyway, follow. I'm just reading through this, and I think that's all for this article, but I really did like it. That was a good one. So, going on to number 2. What determines goodness in a person? And this one is 15 simple traits of a truly good person. Number 1, they are honest in relationships. Yeah, honesty is a big part of a relationship. Possibly the biggest part. I'm trying to get rid of this whole thing. Okay. Number 2, They compliment others when deserved. Oh, I love that one. I'm going to say it again. They compliment others when deserved. My leadership style, and I've had other businesses like my previous Rainwright Lawn Sprinklers, anytime I caught one of my teammates doing something good, I complimented them for that to encourage that type of behavior. Next one, they call their parents regularly. And that, I imagine that one's kind of a difficult one for some people. I know my relationship with my parents when they were both alive was less than perfect, but I did do this just because the Bible calls you to honor thy mother and father. It doesn't say to love them. It doesn't say to take them out for dinner. It says to honor them. Next one, they are polite. And I like to consider myself polite. I think it's been slipping, but I need to work more on that. Number 5, they are kind to everyone. And I would think this one probably is me, because I can remember just recently in last week's how I've seen elderly people at my church, and one elderly lady in particular that was sitting alone by herself. And I decided to join her. I was like, hey, this lady needs a friend to talk to. And I'm like the first person to do those kind of things. Next, they are generous with their belongings. Next one, they remember their manners. I'm the first one to say God bless you if you sneeze and all that good stuff. Big on manners. I think it was Simon Cowell once said that. Well, his mother said, manners make the man. I like that. Number 8, they think of others. And I would say that's me. I like to think of others and think of how I can encourage them. Number 9, they go the extra mile. I'd say that one definitely fits me. I go the extra mile. Next one, they are kind to loved ones. Yes, I'm kind to my loved ones, I like to think. The next one, they smile. And in fact, I'm not certain if you know this, but it takes a lot less effort to smile than it does to frown. Yeah, a lot less muscles to smile than it does to frown. So you should, in fact, I'm going to go ahead and tell you a little secret of mine. When I remember, and I don't always remember, but when I do, even if I'm driving in the car, when nobody's paying attention, nobody's looking, when I'm by myself, I will smile intensely, not clenching my teeth. That is important. Do not clench your teeth if you do this. I smile for at least a 45-second count because behavior has a habit of repeating itself. So I would suggest that you get in the habit of smiling. A smile is a gift. I'm going to say that again. That's my quote. That's my own quote. A smile is a gift. And most people don't smile enough. And next one, they make the best out of every situation. And I'll be honest, that one's even challenging for me. Not everything is going to go your way. And especially if you're trying a new venture, it usually takes longer than you guessed. And if you're a little bit older than like me, you probably figured that out by now. Next one, they make friends easily. I'm going to talk a little bit about that one. That one does fit me. They make friends easily. Now, I can remember when I was a kid growing up, just standing in the grocery store with my father, how he would just strike up a conversation with anybody, and that would just annoy the heck out of me. It's like, who that you think you are? But guess what? I find myself like that now. I strike up a conversation with anybody and everybody, and I usually do try to find things in common. Moving on, they don't take things for granted. I'm going to say that again. It's important that you get thankful for everything and anything in your life. Becoming to have a thankful heart is going to bless your life. So one more time, they don't take things for granted. And then the very last one for this article, 15, they are consistent. And I like to think of myself as consistent. I've been here all week, right? And I was here the majority of last year when I could. But anyway, going to go ahead and take my short break. And when we come back, I might even stay on this subject because I do so much research on these articles that I don't even get to it all. So maybe you really don't want to talk about political conservative values. Maybe you want to hear more about what it takes to be a good person. So looking forward to talking about that. Be right back. I do so much research on these articles that I don't even get to it all. So maybe you really don't want to talk about political conservative values. maybe you want to hear